Hi, hello. It is Josh Bow of Pod Maverick. This is Pod Maverick After Dark coming to you after the Mavericks lose to the New York Knicks 128 to 113. Again, this is just Josh Bow joining you tonight. I will be solo. My co-host, not co-host, almost like I was saying Brian Windhorst, but co-host. My co-host, Kirk Henderson, who runs Pod Maverick, runs MavsMoneyball.com. Will not be joining me tonight. If you guys did not listen to the podcast last night before the Brooklyn or after the Brooklyn Nets game, Kirk's father has passed away and he is taking some time. So I just hope you guys continue to keep Kirk in your thoughts. He will be back with us eventually, but whenever he decides to, and he can take as much time as he needs. So yeah, that's we are gonna try to do the best that we can, or I will try to do the best that I can to talk about this game. It was much more more interesting to talk about yesterday's game because at least it was different. Because Anthony Davis played, which was cool, which was different. But Anthony Davis didn't play. He's not playing in back-to-backs yet, coming back from his injury, abductor strain. And PJ Washington tweaked his ankle in that Nets game. He did not play tonight as well. So we went right back to the nothing matters Mavericks lineup, where there's nothing really interesting to not too much interesting to say really in terms from big picture because the team they didn't have a roster again. Kessler Edwards played his last two-way game. His last game, he was eligible for on his two-way contract. He will not be able to play unless Mavericks convert his contract, I think, towards April 10th or even April 12th. Brandon Williams has a few more games left. This game was hilarious because the Mavericks once again scored a bunch of points because if there's something you can count on the post Kyrie injury, post Luka trade Mavericks is that they will score a lot of points. It is very funny. They only got to 113, but they shot basically 54% from the field. They didn't get to 115 or 120, which is what they've been getting to over the last 2 weeks because they only made six 3-pointers. They did all of their damage at the free throw line and in the paint. The Mavericks, again, this snapped a streak for the Mavericks where they were at 125 or more for 4 straight games. And of course, they only score 113, which is still like a lot of points. So it's very funny. This Mavericks team just keeps scoring points. What can I say? This game was tied at 68-68 at half. The Mavericks had 42 points in the paint at halftime. The Knicks had 44. That is an hilarious amount of points in the paint for two teams. Both teams were on pace to get over 80 points in the paint. Things obviously slowed down a little bit in the second half. But you know what's funny is the Knicks almost got there. They had 76 points in the paint, which is a lot. Anything above 50 is good. Anything above 55 is great. If you hit 60, that's like elite, crazy, really good. The Knicks had 76. The Mavericks had 64 points in the paint. Not a lot of defense in this game. Not a lot of defense at the rim. The Knicks, of course, their defense is a little up and down with Karl Anthony Towns as the main rim protector. And the Mavericks didn't have any of their bigs. No Anthony Davis, no Daniel Gafford, no Derek Lively. So the Mavericks had 0 rim protection as well. Another hilarious part of this game, Najee Marshall had 28 points at halftime on 13 of 15 shooting. He finishes with 38 points on 17 of 25, so cooled off a little bit in the second half. I believe this tied a career high, or this was a career high, which is funny. I think 5 of his career, his 5 highest scoring games of his career have all happened this season. Najee is incredible. He shot, so he was 17 to 25 from the floor. He was 11. No. He was 15 of 21 in the paint. He was only 4-6 in the restricted area. He was 11 of 15 in the paint outside the restricted area. That is hilarious. That is 73.3% in that range, in the paint outside the restricted area, the floater range. League average is 44.2. He shot 73.3% on 15 attempts in a zone where players and teams normally shoot 44%. Najee is the floater god. It was hilarious in the first half. He was literally just going one-on-one. against these Knicks defenders, dusting them, spinning into the lane, and then scoring. The Mavericks were doing a good job screening worse defenders on him when Mikal Bridges got a couple opportunities to guard Najee. The Mavericks immediately screened Mikal off of Najee, and Najee went to work. It's a shame that this comes in vain. The Mavericks, again, could not guard a paper bag. Karl Anthony Towns had 26 on 19 shots. OG Anunoby had 35 on 24 shots. Mikal Bridges had 21 points on 14 shots. Josh Hart, 16 points on 9 shots. Yeah, just you go down the list. Pretty much everyone on the Knicks shot the ball pretty well. The Knicks only made 10 of 26 from 3. That's 38.5%, but they did most of their damage in the paint as well. They scored 76 points in the paint. That's a lot. They had 40 assists on 53 made field goals, so it was very easy for them. They were basically roasting anything the Mavericks tried to do on defense. And the Mavericks, this is kind of what, outside of the Nets game, this is what the Mavericks have looked like since the injuries. They cannot guard anyone. They have no size. They can't keep anyone out of the paint. But they could score because there's no one in the paint for them either, because they're playing 5 out. They're playing no centers. So all 5 players are outside of the paint. And Najee and Spencer Dinwiddie and Jaden Hardy and Brandon Williams are just going nuts with all the extra spacing. It's really amazing. I'm going to write about this next week, about how the Mavericks are scoring with this small ball lineup. And it's really not going to be, I don't even know if it's going to be a long article because it's not fancy. They're literally just spreading teams out and they're driving with a ferocity I have not seen. It's quite a shame Najee Marshall did not get to play in a playoff game with Luka Doncic, because Najee is doing exactly what this team needed in the finals loss against the Celtics. A lot was made about the Mavericks defense. The Mavericks front office also apparently thought a lot of that series was about the defense, which is why they made the Luka Doncic trade. But the Mavericks actually held the Celtics to their lowest, to below their season average in scoring in terms of points per 100 possessions in that 5-game series. And of course, it's a 5-game sample, but it's also the playoffs. Yeah, it's going to be a small sample because you only play most 7 games in a series. So we're allowed to talk about it. You can't do small sample size in the playoffs. I'm sorry, because that's the playoffs. What are you going to do? Yeah, the Mavericks held the Celtics well below their season scoring average in points per 100 possessions. The offense for the Mavericks, what was the problem? With the Celtics playing Luka and Kyrie mostly one-on-one with help shading from awkward spots on the floor, not helping from the corners, helping in a little bit from the wings, sticking to corner shooters, sticking to the lob threat, and then just being happy with whatever Luka and Kyrie can do in mostly one-on-one situations. They did see 2 on the ball occasionally, but they were not easy passes out of those double teams. They were mostly getting open above the break threes, which the Mavericks are not as great at. That's not as good a shot as a lob or corner 3, which is where the Mavericks offense really thrived with Luka. They needed their role players to be able to do more. They didn't have enough dynamicism from their role players to attack that coverage, because the Celtics were like, hey, we don't care if we're guarding your role players one-on-one. We're going to stick to them and dare them to try to beat us off the dribble. And the Mavericks couldn't do it because they had Derrick Jones Jr. PJ Washington was okay, but they didn't have a lot of off-ball shooting. They didn't have a lot of off-ball perimeter creation outside of Luka and Kyrie. So the Mavericks fixed that. They got Klay Thompson, one of the best off-ball shooters in the league. They got Najee Marshall, who's a really creative perimeter player. And you look at what Najee's doing, and it's exactly what this team needed in the finals last year. And it is really a shame that we're not going to be able to see the pre-Luka trade version of this Mavericks roster in the playoffs, because it would have been really exciting, because I really think they plugged all their holes. As crazy as that is to say, I like that team went to the finals, and the biggest things that they needed: more shooting, more dribble creation from the non-stars. They did that. They got Najee to fill the dribble creation from the non-stars. They got Klay Thompson and Quentin Grimes to help with their off-ball shooting. They still retained a lot of that defensive edge with Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford and PJ Washington, and then adding Grimes. Not to bemoan, we're not going to talk about the trade too much, but just watching Najee work tonight and watching him work for the last month, he's had an incredible March. It just made me sad that we couldn't see this team, the pre-Luka trade team, in the playoffs with Najee, because this is really what they needed. He's really an incredible player. Outside of Najee, Kai Jones didn't score in double figures for the first time in his Mavericks career. He had 9 points, but he had 9 points and 8 rebounds. Probably had the singular greatest moment of this Mavericks season where he finished an alley-oop in the first quarter and then did a kip up like he was Shawn Michaels or he was The Rock, because it was a crazy alley-oop where he kind of fell to the floor after completing the play. And then that man just kipped right up, like I said, like he was The Rock or Shawn Michaels. Um, I think that definitely qualifies as the coolest moment to happen to the Mavericks this season when you consider how much of a season from hell this has been. Brandon Williams, in his limited time remaining with the Mavericks, had another awesome game, 22 points on 11 shots, got the free throw line 8 times. Again, he can't really guard, but he attacked. He's been benefiting a lot from this small ball spacing and being able to attack the paint. Jaden Hardy had a nice little bounce back game, 15 points on 9 shots. Again, attacking from 2-point range. Really, the only disappointing players I think on the Mavericks, at least offensively, was Klay Thompson was terrible. 6 points on 2 of 11 shooting, didn't make a three, just very bad. Doing that thing again where he pump fakes himself out of open threes to take worse threes. I don't know why he does that. Did that a couple times tonight. Spencer Dinwiddie cooled off a little bit, had 4 turnovers, the most turnovers he's had in the game, I think, all month. 4 of 11 shooting after he had a really good game against the Nets. But hey, this is what it looks like. The Nets stink, and the Knicks are one of the best teams in the NBA. So yeah, that Nets game, I mean, it's good that they won it. The result is good, but anyone trying to take anything away from that Nets game, like a greater meaning from that Nets game, I really think is just kind of a little foolish. I know there's not a lot to talk about right now. Like we kind of have to talk about something, but yeah, that Nets game was not a precursor of things to come because that Nets team is very, very bad. So this, obviously this game isn't really more indicative of the Mavericks because they were missing Anthony Davis, they're missing PJ Washington. So again, another game where you just kind of can dump it down the toilet and you'll try to start again. The Mavericks shot, what did they shoot as a team? They were 19 of 30 in the restricted area, 13 of 21 in the paint outside the restricted area. The Knicks were 28 of 37 in the restricted area. That is hilarious. 28 makes in the restricted area. 75.7% shooting in the restricted area. That's bad defense. But what more can you say? After this, the Mavericks schedule becomes baby, but smooth, soft. They play Orlando, Chicago, Brooklyn, Atlanta for their next 4 games. Honestly, that should be 3-1. Even with the Mavericks at this state, I think that's 4-0 or 3-1. Don't want to jinx it. Chicago is playing very well right now. Honestly, Chicago, I think that if I had to put a prediction, I think they go 3-1, and I think the one is Chicago, the one loss, because I think Chicago is playing really well. Go take a look at what they've been doing over the last 2 weeks. They've been killing it post Zach LaVine trade. They have won 3 in a row. They have won 1, 2, 3, 4. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They have won 8 out of their last 10 games. They have beaten, by the way, in this 3-game winning streak, they have won all on the road at Sacramento, at Los Angeles, Lakers, at Denver. So Chicago is killing it. And all of those games they won by double digits, by the way. They've been over 120 points 4 straight games. In the 3-game winning streak, they scored 128, then 146, then 129. It is pretty. Colby White and Josh Giddey are putting on a clinic. So I think the Mavericks go 3-1 in their next 4, and I think that one loss is Chicago. So we'll see what happens. I don't have much to talk about. We're supposed to get to 20 minutes on these podcasts, but I feel like I hit everything I need to hit. Without Anthony Davis playing, there's really less to talk about because if he would have been able to play tonight, obviously he shouldn't be playing on back-to-backs coming back from his injury. But if he did play, we'd be just getting more data, more tape on him, just seeing how the Mavericks play with him. We'll see from there. Last note, very nice stat from Nick Ainstat of Locked On Mavs. I'll just read him verbatim. His tweet: only 11 players this season have scored 38 or more points with 1 made 3 or less. Najee Marshall joins that list tonight. Those 11 players. So I want to list the other players. Giannis Antetokounmpo. Oh man, I can't say his last name. Apologies. So Giannis, Jalen Brunson, Cade Cunningham, Anthony Davis, Anthony Edwards, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Nikola Jokic, Ja Morant, Alperen Sengun, and hilariously Mark Williams and then Zion Williamson. So pretty good names on that list for Najee to join. All those guys are starters for the most part. Najee's been a starter lately, but those are primo players. So good for Najee for joining. Sorry this podcast was in the dark. That's the rule. Mavericks lose. I'm in the dark. If they win, I turn on the lights. So that's what we're doing. We got to trying to find some fun as we get to the end of this season, which is not going to end the way that we thought it would when it started. Quick standings watch. We'll do that before we get out of here. Do the Phoenix Suns play today? The Phoenix Suns do not play tonight. So the Mavericks will end the night in the 11th seed. They have as many wins as the Suns, but they have one more loss. So the Mavericks are a half game. Technically, they are a half game behind the Suns, but it's really more they're a full game because if the Mavericks are tied, with the Suns on the tiebreaker. So the Mavericks have to go above the Suns to reclaim that 10th seed. They're 2.5 games up on Portland, who have lost one. They're coming off a loss. They're 4-6 in their last 10. There's an outside chance they could catch the Mavericks, but I don't think it's going to happen. Salam in the chat says, any notes on Rick Wells' comments during the game? No, I have nothing. What are my comments? Rick Wells is the CEO of the Mavericks. That is a business. That is a business title. He has nothing to do with the basketball operations. He has nothing to do with how the team builds and shapes its roster. He is mostly there to help grease local officials and push for a new arena that the Mavericks are angling for when their lease is up in about five or so years with the American Airlines Center. And I don't really care. I don't really care about new arena. I don't care about people that work on the business side. No, this is no offense to Rick. Like, every team has a guy like this, but like, I care about the basketball. And obviously some of this stuff pertains a little bit, having a new arena, I guess, helps, but like, I just don't care. I know Kirk got pretty mad about it online. And I can understand why. I'm not mad. I just don't care. I don't have an opinion. Don't really care about the business side that much. Don't really care about what the new arena is going to be. Unless it is outside of the Dallas city limits, then I will care. If that team moves to Irving, that would be a tragedy. Pro teams need to be as close to their downtowns as possible, is what I'll say. They need to have easy access to public transportation. And they need to be in a populous area in downtown. I think they would still have, if they built in where they want to build in Irving, I think there would still be a train station. But again, where the Mavericks are now, there are multiple lines that run in through Victory Park. It's not just the Dallas Rail. It's the TRE also gets there. I think you could probably get there maybe through the Grapevine rail system that then connects to the TRE. I'm not sure, but there's more public transportation options in downtown Dallas than there is in Irving. So my only opinion on Rick Wells' comments is I hope that he keeps the team within Dallas city limits, which I think he kind of hinted at. So we'll see. But again, these are just public comments during a game. Would not hold anything he said to higher scrutiny than that, because people are not usually telling the truth in public when they work for a professional basketball team, because there's a lot going on behind the scenes. So that's it. No other opinion. Don't care. Do not care at all. Just keep the arena in downtown Dallas and we're square. That's all I got to say about it. So, oh my God, I got to 20 minutes, you guys. I can't believe I did it. Just hit 20 minutes right now. So thank you guys for joining. This is Pod Maverick After Dark. Josh Bowe signing off. Check MavsWinningBall.com for your post-game coverage. Keep watching, subscribing. Those of you that are doing this, we really appreciate it. We will be back. Mavericks, I think, have at least, oh boy, what are their days off? Because they just played a back-to-back. They don't play again until March 27th. So we will be back. That's how many days is that? Oh my God, I can't do math. Today's the 25th. So only one day off. So one day off, and then they'll be back to playing on Thursday. We'll be back right there with you after the Magic game. Love these East Coast games. Get it done early. It is 9:20. I'm going to go to bed. So thanks, guys. We'll talk to you later. Josh Bro from As Money Ball After Dark signing off. Again, Mavericks lose to the Knicks 128-113. They remain in the 11th seed tonight, and we'll see what happens. See ya.